Brandon always had a sense that he was destined for greatness. Growing up in a lower-class community, he witnessed more family and friends perish due to drug addiction and gun violence than most people see in a lifetime. Bombarded by the constant wail of police sirens and the sting of tears for lost loved ones, he often wondered what his fate would be. His surroundings set the tone, with no money, lack of opportunity, a failing educational system, and coming from a poor family, it's needless to say the future did not look too promising. And he often wondered if life was even worth living. At home, his father was present, but physically, verbally, and emotionally abusive to both him and his mother. For many years, Brandon watched her suffer and often found himself in the midst of their disputes trying to stop the arguing before it became violent and someone got hurt. Screaming and yelling were just the norm and part of being home. On top of it all, his mother was a type 2 diabetic, whose condition was so severe that her blood sugar levels would crash unexpectedly and require emergency medical treatment, or she could potentially lose her life. Trying to get a grasp on everything that was happening, Brandon turned to God, reading the Bible and attending church, in an attempt to find answers or at least some understanding as to why life was the way it was. Although some solace was found, it wasn't long before the sound of a door slamming or someone screaming brought him back to reality. Feeling unwelcomed by most of the well-to-do members of the congregation, his poor upbringing, street lingo, and thuggish appearance, he began to feel like an outcast. And as crazy as it sounds, the streets became a safe haven, a place where he received love, appreciation, and knowledge from others who have learned to make it on their own. While Brandon was not some heartless, stone-cold gangster or killer, he did have to learn how to fight, how to survive, and stay alive. Everybody that he was involved with was affiliated with criminal activity, consequently led him to doing drugs, stealing, and breaking into homes just to get by. With everything from frequent run-ins with the police, problems that occurred in the neighborhood, and sporadic events that would seemingly happen out of nowhere, his lifestyle choices would most likely lead him to prison, or even worse, to the grave. He didn't know how, but he believed that there had to be some way that he could change his life for the better and turn his past experiences into something positive. Rap became a source of hope, a way to express himself, articulate his thoughts, and provided a medium in which he could release the negative emotions associated with being impoverished that plagued his heart and soul. The only thing he really knew how to do was rhyme. Even though it wasn't much, it was better than nothing. It gave him a sense of self-worth and achievement. Everyone he knew was involved with rap music one way or another. On the Westbank, it was just a part of life, something that everyone in the neighborhood did in the past time. He never thought of making a career out of it, but was encouraged by a friend who often listened to him to consider cultivating his skill and ability and to take it seriously. With nothing to lose, he began writing with the hopes that he might be able to change his and his family's circumstances. The words of his father lingered in his head. "You're a bum, and you'll never amount to anything." That statement imprinted on his conscience fueled his desire to succeed and prove him wrong. Once he had enough confidence in himself, he and a friend would often call into the local radio station Q93, where he would recite gospel raps under the alias of Brother B to compete against other rappers in the city. This was a show hosted by a DJ known as Wild Wayne, who played beats live over the radio while the artist calling in rapped over the phone. This show broadcasted throughout the city and is responsible for the beginning of many successful artists. As time progressed, he became more polished, more critical about his choice of words, how they came together to develop a rhyme scheme, and how everything sounded as a whole. He started listening to artists from other places like New York and Detroit, who had far more lyrical ability than other rappers from New Orleans. Implementing new techniques drastically changed the way he sounded and the way he wrote songs. Chasing his dream, he found himself jumping from studio to studio, acquiring knowledge about the beat-making process, engineering, and the production side of creating records. He hung around, asked questions, and from time to time he would collaborate with the artists who were paying to book sessions. Needless to say, most of the rappers who had already hit the charts and became famous did not like the idea of being out-rhymed by someone who just woke up off the floor and was homeless. He often was asked to leave, forcing him to find somewhere else to go, but there wasn't anywhere else. Music was the only thing he had, a light at the end of the tunnel. The idea that maybe God allowed his pain for a purpose inspired him, and the thought of him and his family living better lives was all the motivation he needed. As fate would have it, one day, As he was on his way to a friend's house, he ran into his high school sweetheart. They struck up a conversation, and their relationship was rekindled. A year later, they were married, living with her family, and his daughter was born. Life was good for a while, with love and positivity surrounding him. He felt even more encouraged and inspired, until it was discovered that she had been dishonest and unfaithful. It crushed his spirit, leaving him feeling even more broken than before, and he began to spiral downward into a deep depression which led to heated arguments, constant fighting, yelling, and doors being slammed, reminding him of a place that he knew all too well. Filled with heartbreak, he reverted to what he had always done in trying times and began writing, but this time about pain, disloyalty, and betrayal. It wasn't long after they parted ways and the responsibility of raising their daughter to him, his mother, and her parents. Now, with a child to provide for, no job, little to no skills, and a dream that wasn't paying the bills, he put down his pen and focused on what he needed to do to be a provider. In New Orleans, rap music was the bread and butter, the new way to hustle, and the risk involved were no different than the ones selling drugs. Anyone who dared to become successful risked losing their lives. But that was a risk that most were already taking on a daily basis anyway. It wasn't uncommon to hear about upcoming artists being shot. It was just a normal thing. A popular phrase often used was, "We ain't nothing but crabs in a bucket," referring to the way anyone trying to make it out is pulled down. Many have tried to and lost their lives due to jealousy and hatred in the process, and death is just a normal theme surrounding rap music. Always has been and always will be. Being highly skilled and already having a reputation for his ability to outrhyme other artists was not necessarily a positive attribute for Brandon considering the circumstances. He personally knew many of the rappers who were killed, and that fact, along with the thought of not being in his daughter's life, was not taken lightly, and he knew a choice had to be made. Brandon often wondered if his efforts were in vain or was there a way to still pursue his dreams. It wasn't the fear of death that stopped him, but the consequences of not being in his child's life which made him so hesitant and indecisive. He struggled going from job to job, trying to juggle being a parent, a good provider, and doing music. Eventually, along with the help of his mother, he was able to raise his daughter and create a sustainable income. Brandon's journey was far from over, and things between his parents hadn't changed much. Due to the constant arguing and fighting and her medical condition, his mother's health rapidly declined, and on May 26th of 2017, he found her non-responsive lying on her bed, gasping for air. Her blood sugar levels had gotten so high that she went into diabetic ketoacidosis. The doctors tried to revive her but were unsuccessful in their attempts. Shortly after, his father didn't hesitate to take her off life support and she passed away. After a long mourning process, the relationship between him and his father deteriorated, which was not surprising. Although he had always tried to forgive and put into practice the principles taught by Christ, his heart was filled with anger, disappointment, and resentment. He thought it would be healthier to keep communication to a minimal and move away. With everything behind him, he was ready to move on from everything he had dealt with, continue raising his daughter, and pursuing a career in music. Through it all, he still believed success was possible, and now equipped with the knowledge and experience he had acquired over the years, he started independently producing his own beats, writing, recording, and mixing his own vocals, as well as mastering graphic design, video editing, and computer technology. Although he has never become successful in a traditional sense, by the grace of God, he's survived everything that life has thrown at him, remained positive through it all, and trusted the process. Currently working on an EP titled Hell or High Water under the alias BREAUX Avenue, he has released his first single, If Heaven Had a Phone, a song dedicated to his mother that is available on all streaming platforms. When asked after all this time, why haven't you given up? He said, "Because I know this is what I'm supposed to be doing. Some people rap to become famous or make money, and I understand that. But to me, it's who I am. When it's all said and done, I know that I'll stand before my Creator and be proud of what I've done with the life He gave me." If you're interested in supporting Brandon's music, links will be provided in the bio of this video. Don't forget to subscribe and stay updated with new releases by BREAUX Avenue.